Hi, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Please, before you continue with the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra here, I wanted to say a few words on expedient means, skillful means. So I'll link a video here at the end of this video, and I'll put it in the description as well. That's a short 15-minute talk on that concept, because it's very important for you to understand the rhetoric and the way that translations work, and the way that all of Buddhism from its outset, almost 3,000 years ago, well, 2,700 years ago, wherever your calendar lies on that, to this Nichiren here, there's this constant tightrope being walked between magical thinking and reasonable thinking. And so I don't want you to think, there's a lot of talk today about how this is poetical or this is flowery language, but it's not. It's very dissecting, very reasonable language for a very mystical audience. People living, well, I don't want to go into it too much because this is what I do in the other video. So if you're at all thrown by any of this, I'm going to try to make it clear. But this other video might help give you some insight as to how to read Buddhist writings. So we'll continue. He goes on to say, suppose one were to place a needle in the earth, point up, and throw down tiny mustard seeds at it from the palace of the great King Brahma in the heavens. So you've got a needle sticking out of the ground, and you're going way, way high up in the sky, and you're throwing mustard seeds at it. Not an easy task, right? One could sooner impale a mustard seed on the point of a needle in this way than encounter the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. So obviously he's saying that to encounter this teaching, you take a moment to understand, it's a precious moment. It doesn't just, people don't just walk into it accidentally. Your life is ready to start digesting this teaching and this idea of reason. Or suppose one were to place a needle upright on the top of Mount Sumeru in one world, and then standing atop the Mount Sumeru of another world on a very windy day were to try to cast a thread so that it reached the other mountain and passed through the eye of the needle. You're starting to get the idea here, right? One could sooner thread a needle in this way than encounter the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. What's he trying to say here? He's trying to remind people that this teaching isn't just some casual teaching. It's not just some idea casually thrown around. That what he's doing is he's valuing this teaching. He's reminding people that this is unique. This is a very important thing to understand. This isn't just some new fashionable craze for you to latch onto. There is a depth of meaning in this that is fundamental to your life. Please try to grasp how amazing it is that you are learning this right now. All right? He's wanting to capture the mind of his audience and make sure they value what it is they're learning. Therefore, when you chant the Daimoku of this sutra, you should be aware that it is more joyful a thing than for one who was born blind to gain sight and see one's father and mother, and rarer a thing than for a man who has been seized by a powerful enemy to be released and reunited with his wife and children. You see? Question. He uses this format a lot. He'll pose a question to himself to answer so that he can appeal to his audience. What passages of proof can be cited to show that one should chant only the Daimoku? Obvious question, right? He's going to get people who are going to be reticent and go, okay, why are you right and everyone else wrong, right? Answer. The 8th volume of the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law states that one who accepts and upholds the mere name of the Lotus Sutra will enjoy immeasurable good fortune. The Lotus Sutra of the Correct Law says that if one hears this sutra and proclaims and embraces its title, one will enjoy merit beyond measure. So, this is Nichiren saying, look, I didn't come up with this on my own. I have the great privilege of pointing it out, but it's been here all along. We hear this throughout Buddhism, right? But here, he's nailing it. This invocation, this simple invocation, albeit you've been studying Buddhism and studying all of the previous writings, now you're ready to understand because you can combine all of these concepts in your mind now with your knowledge now. And the supplemented Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law says that one who accepts and upholds the name of the Lotus Sutra will enjoy immeasurable good fortune. These statements indicate that the good fortune one receives from simply chanting the Daimoku is beyond measure. So this is what I'm always pointing out also, is the invocation of your innate Buddha nature. It's always been there, but this is a culmination, an ultimate teaching of, now that you know all this. And this is how we teach things in our modern schools. We teach a lot of things about mathematics that seem mystical, and then at some point we go, okay, this is what's really going down. And this is how it works. Boom. It's always been that way. It's just that our road to understanding it had to go through all of these other minor understandings to get to the great understanding, right? So this is Buddhism, same mechanism, has been for thousands of years. To accept, uphold, read, recite, take delight in, that's your resolute mind, and protect all the 8 volumes and 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra is called the comprehensive practice. To accept, uphold, and protect the expedient means chapter and the lifespan chapter is called the abbreviated practice. So when we chant and we recite the 2nd chapter and the 16th chapter, sometimes 15th, depends on the edition of the lifespan chapter, in Gongyo, we're doing an abbreviated practice. And simply to chant one 4-phrase verse of the Daimoku and to protect those who do so is called the essential practice. Right? Hence, among these 3 kinds of practice, comprehensive, abbreviated, and essential, the Daimoku is defined as the essential practice. So Gongyo is great. It will help you in your daily life, but never without the essential practice of reciting the title of the Lotus Sutra, Myoho Renge Kyo. And further, Namu, your resolute mind in Myoho Renge Kyo, is your entire practice, your essential practice. The comprehensive being all of your study of the entirety of the Lotus Sutra, which stands on the previous teachings. The abbreviated practice of Gongyo, and the essential Daimoku. Question: how great are the blessings contained within the 5 characters Myoho Renge Kyo? How great is it? Answer: the great ocean contains all the numerous rivers that flow into it. The great earth contains all sentient and insentient beings. The wish-granting jewel is capable of showering down innumerable treasures. And the heavenly king Brahma rules over all the threefold world. The 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo are comparable to these. All beings of the 9 worlds, as well as those in the world of Buddhahood, are contained within them. And since all beings of the 10 worlds are contained within them, so are their environments. So, this is a long way around telling you, as I pointed out in the linked video, this is your universe. This is your environment, the people in your life, the places you live, the places you go, in your mind and physically. All of it is of your understanding, your making, really, your mental construct. And this is all obvious or clear through your Buddha mind, Myoho Renge Kyo. Let us first examine the fact that the 5 characters Myoho Renge Kyo contain within them all teachings. Pause for dramatic effect. All teachings are contained within Myoho Renge Kyo. So as I've pointed out before, the Lotus Sutra stands on the shoulders of all the sutras and treatises written before it. So study has to include those. As your understanding deepens, becomes more profound, it becomes easier to invoke the knowledge of those teachings, your learning of them, within the Daimoku. The single character Kyo, or sutra, or teaching, or dharma, is the king of all sutras, and all the other sutras are encompassed by it. The Buddha appeared in the world and over a period of 50 years preached 80,000 sacred teachings. At that time, the lifespan of human beings is said to have been 100 years. The Buddha passed away in the middle of the night on the 15th day of the 2nd month of the year with the cyclical sign Mizuno Saru. Thereafter, during some 90 days of summer, or the period from the 8th day of the 4th month until the 15th day of the 7th month of the same year, 1,000 arhats gathered at the compilation hall and set down all the sutras. After that, during the 1,000 years of the former day of the law, all these various sutras spread throughout the 5 regions of India, but they did not reach as far as China. It was only on the 15th year of the middle day of the law, 1,015 years after the Buddha's passing, that Buddhist sutras were first introduced to China. This was in the year with the cyclical sign Hinoto-u, the 10th year of the Yu Ping era, Common Era 67, in the reign of Emperor Ming of the latter Han dynasty. From that time until the year of the cyclical sign Kanoa-uma, the 18th year of the Kaiyuan era, Common Era 730, in the reign of Emperor Huizong of the Tang dynasty, a total of 176 translators went over to China, taking with them 1,076 sutras, works on discipline, and treatises comprising 5,048 volumes contained in 480 scrolls. All of these sacred writings are flowers of the single character Kyo of the Lotus Sutra. The scholarship of this man is incredible. Among the sutras that the Buddha preached during the more than 40 years before, my page turning karma. More than 40 years before he expounded the Lotus Sutra, there is one called the Great and Vast Buddha Flower Garland Sutra. This sutra is preserved in the Dragon King's palace in 3 versions. The first version contains as many chapters as the dust particles of 10 major world systems. The second version contains 498,800 verses, and the third version contains 100,000 verses in 48 chapters. Outside of these three versions, only the smaller texts, such as the 80-volume and 60-volume versions, are preserved in China and Japan. In addition, there are the Hinayana Agama Sutras and the various Mahayana Sutras of the correct and equal and the wisdom periods. Among the latter, the Sanskrit text of the Mahavajrayana Sutra devotes a total of 3,500 verses simply to the explanation of the 5 characters of the mantra Avarahaka, to say nothing of the countless verses it uses to describe the seeds, august forms, and samayas of the various honored ones. In China, however, the text exists in a mere 6 or 7 volume form. The Nirvana Sutra, which the Buddha preached in the Sal Grove on his last day, is preserved in China in a version that is only 40 volumes long, though in this case, too, the Sanskrit versions of the text have many more volumes. All these various sutras are followers of the Lotus Sutra, the most profound teaching of the thus come one Shakyamuni. In addition, all the sutras expounded by the 7 Buddhas of the past, the 1,000 Buddhas or the Buddhas of countless kalpas ago, as well as those expounded by the Buddhas presently living in the 10 directions, are followers of the single character Kyo of the Lotus Sutra. Thus, in the Medicine King chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha addresses Bodhisattva constellation King Flower, saying that just as the ocean is foremost among all the rivers, streams, and other bodies of water, just as Mount Sumeru is foremost among all the mountains, and just as the moon is foremost among the heavenly bodies, so the Lotus Sutra is likewise among all the sutras. The great teacher Miao Lo says in his commentary that the Lotus Sutra is, quote, foremost among all sutras preached in the past, now being preached, or to be preached in the future, end quote. Within this single character Kyo are contained all the sutras in the world throughout the 10 directions. It is like the wish-granting jewel that contains within it all manner of treasures, or the vastness of space that encompasses all phenomena, and because this single character, Kyo, of Myoho Renge Kyo, is the supreme achievement of the Buddha's lifetime of teaching, the other 4 characters, Myoho Renge, likewise surpass all the other 80,000 doctrines that the Buddha taught. Coming now to the character Myo, the Lotus Sutra says, quote, this sutra opens the gate of expedient means and shows the form of true reality, end quote. The great teacher Chang'an states, quote, Myo means to reveal the depths of the secret storehouse, end quote. The great teacher Miao Lo says of this, quote, to reveal means to open, end quote. Hence, the character Myo means to open. So, you can see how he's going to dissect the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. We'll read one more paragraph. If there is a storehouse full of treasures but no key, then it cannot be opened. And if it cannot be opened, then the treasures inside cannot be seen. The Buddha preached the Flower Garland Sutra, but he did not therein expound the key to open this sutra. You remember the Flower Garland Sutra is the Kigan Sutra in Japanese, or the Flower Garland Sutra, more to a Western audience. The Avatamsaka Sutra in Sanskrit. It's basically, it's quite a voluminous work. There are only a couple of good translations of it. And it is the first teaching that Shakyamuni told his disciples at the time of his own enlightenment. So he was, the way I like to phrase it, it's a beautiful work, by the way. He basically is describing what it's like to be in your Buddhahood, in your enlightened mind. But as you know the story, his disciples were listening to all that with fascination, but it was so far over their heads. to grasp it, to know, okay, like the way that Nichiren is talking about it here, and has been quoted by others. It's like this great storehouse of knowledge, but no easy way to invoke it, to penetrate it, to own it. It's just unfathomable, right? So it's kind of like, in modern terms, look at science. All the mathematics and particle physics and chemistry and biology that we have to understand in order to begin to understand the wonder of the human body, of the universe, of the planetary systems, and so forth, right? There's an incredible amount of knowledge you can be awed by it, but when you start to dig into all of these different sciences, you gain a much deeper appreciation and actually a mental path into understanding how amazing and precious it is. Same with our minds, same with our Buddhahood. We use our study in order to gain access to the incredible nature and our participation in it. This is always the key. Is that it's not just ours to wonder about, it's ours to intervene in, to be a part of, to participate in its making. That's Buddhism. The Buddha preached the Flower Garland Sutra, but he did not therein expound the key to open this sutra. Likewise, in the more than 40 years that followed, okay. Let's see if I can get through this. If there is a storehouse full of treasures but no key, then it cannot be opened. And if it cannot be opened, then the treasures inside cannot be seen. The Buddha preached the Flower Garland Sutra, but he did not therein expound the key to open this sutra. Likewise, in the more than 40 years that followed, he preached the sutras of the Agama, correct and equal, and wisdom periods, as well as the Meditation Sutra, but he did not reveal their meaning. Their doors remained closed, and therefore no one could understand these sutras, even though people thought they understood. Their understanding was in fact distorted. So this is a direct admonition and clarification for those in the Theravada or Hinayana traditions, that their teachings are, although they think they're understood, their understanding was in fact distorted. But then the Buddha preached the Lotus Sutra, and in this way opened the storehouses of the sutras. And for the first time in more than 40 years, all the people of the 9 worlds were able to view the treasures that lay within. To give an analogy, even though there are people and animals, plants and trees on the earth, without the light of the sun or moon, even those with good eyes cannot make out their shapes and colors. It is when the sun or moon rises that one can discern for the first time what these things really look like. The sutras that preceded the Lotus Sutra were shrouded in the darkness of a long night, and the essential and theoretical teachings of the Lotus Sutra were like the sun and the moon. Among the Bodhisattvas, among the Bodhisattvas with their 2 good eyes, the cross-eyed people of the 2 vehicles, ordinary people with their blind eyes, or Ichantikas who have been blind since birth, there were none who could make out the true color or shape of things by means of the earlier sutras. But when the Lotus Sutra was preached and the moon of the theoretical teaching came forth, first the Bodhisattvas with their 2 good eyes gained enlightenment, and then the cross-eyed people of the 2 vehicles, learning and realization. Next, the blind eyes of ordinary people were opened, and then even the Ichantikas, who had been blind from birth, were able to establish a relationship with the Lotus Sutra that assured them that their eyes would one day open. All this was due entirely to the virtue of the single character, Myo. There are 2 Myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand principles expounded in the Lotus Sutra. One is the first 14 chapters, which constitutes the theoretical teaching, and one in the latter 14th chapter, which constitutes the essential teaching. From another point of view, there are 28 wonderful and difficult to understand principles. 10 in the theoretical teaching and 10 in the essential teaching. Or there are 60 wonderful and difficult to understand principles, 24, 30 in the theoretical teachings, and 30 in the essential teaching. Sorry, 24 is a footnote. From yet another point of view, 40 wonderful and difficult to understand principles may be discerned in each half of the Lotus Sutra. By adding these to the 40 wonderful and difficult to understand principles concerning the observation of the mind, the single character myo will be found to contain fully 120 myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand principles. One fundamental myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand principle, underlies every one of the 69,384 characters that make up the Lotus Sutra. Hence, the Lotus Sutra comprises a total of 69,384 wonderful and difficult to understand principles. Myo in India is rendered as sad, and in China as miao. Myo means to be fully endowed, which is in turn has the meaning of perfect and full. Each word and each character of the Lotus Sutra contains within it all the 69,384 characters that compose the sutra. To illustrate, one drop of the great ocean contains within it the waters of all the various rivers that flow into the ocean, and a single wish-granting jewel, though no bigger than a mustard seed, is capable of showering down the treasures that one could wish for with all the wish-granting jewels. To give another analogy, plants and trees are withered and bare in autumn and winter, but when the sun of spring and summer shines on them, they put forth branches and leaves, and then flowers and fruit. Before the preaching of the Lotus Sutra, the people in the 9 worlds were like the plants and trees in autumn and winter, but the single character myo of the Lotus Sutra shone on them the spring and summer sun. Then the flower of the aspiration for enlightenment blossomed, and the fruit of Buddhahood or rebirth in the Pure Land emerged. Now there's a lot in those last 2 sentences I want to unpack. Okay? When he says, he's just talking about myo here. But myo is Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Myo is all of the teachings, right? The opening to all of the teachings. So what are you opening? What are we invoking? What is enlightenment? The flower of the aspiration for enlightenment blossomed. So myo is the opening of the door to your own Buddha mind. Your enlightened, fully clear, understanding mind. Your complete ownership of the universe you inhabit. It is yours. This is the key to opening your ability to encompass that. And the fruit of Buddhahood, and here I've talked about rebirth a lot, right? So here it is in plain English, although this is a translation, but listen. The fruit of Buddhahood. What is the fruit of Buddhahood? A rebirth in the Pure Land emerged. So the concepts of Pure Land, rebirth, Buddhahood, all in one sentence here. Again, this is the line we walk between reality and magical thinking. Magical thinking wants to say the Pure Land is a land somewhere else. It's not this land, it's another land. And rebirth means, possibly reincarnation, coming back, afterlife, all of that. But not so. This is contemporaneous. The fruit of Buddhahood. What is the fruit of Buddhahood? Why do we want to enlighten our mind? Why do we want to become clear? What is the point of Buddhism? To eschew all of this magical thinking and sit firmly within the driver's seat of our universe. That is a rebirth. That is the last moment I was unclear. This moment I'm clear. You're reborn. You're reborn where? Not in the old magical understanding of the universe, but in the pure land, emerged. The emergence is your rebirth. Your rebirth is your aha. I get it. All of it, this is the whole, if I could just concentrate on this remaining paragraph, this last few words of this paragraph, I could spend my entire life, the remainder of it anyway, teaching Buddhism through that paragraph. Because this is it. This is the nutshell. This is the key. This is the myo. Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, one of my favorites, in his treatise on the great perfection of wisdom says, quote, "The Lotus Sutra is like a great physician who can change poison into medicine," end quote. This quotation occurs in a passage in Great Perfection of Wisdom that explains the virtues inherent in the character Myo of the Lotus Sutra. The great teacher Miao Lo remarks, quote, "Because it can cure what is thought to be incurable, it is called Myo, or wonderful." Now, on that, I'm going to end this video. With all the foibles I've had with technical problems in this one, it's a perfect moment to remind you that your support is critical for me to continue to make these videos. I'm working with old equipment. It breaks down. It does weird things. It takes forever for me to assemble these things, fix them, and put them online in an acceptable form that can work for you, for me. So if you can, of course, it's not mandatory, but if you can, help to support my effort, help me to buy a new computer so that I can make these more often, more reliably, and with the best quality I'm able. It's invaluable for my practice and for my ability to share with you my insights and the incredible wealth of knowledge in Buddhism. Once again, I wish you all good health and fortune in this life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks for participating. I will see you soon.